Good afternoon, NAC, and welcome to the NAC Check-in Chat. We haven't been together for a while, but excited to be back here with you again, and we've got a great program for you today. First, a few announcements. The next NAC Check-in Chat will appear in September. We're going to be going to CinemaCon, and I'll tell you about that in just a little bit. But I'm interested in anybody in any future topics. What do you want to hear about? What do you want to know about that affects our industry? And we will do our level best to find some content that addresses those needs. And then also, if you are interested in sponsoring one of these sessions, very reasonable sponsorship for you. And all you have to do is contact me, and we can set you up for a future session. By way of housekeeping, please stay muted during the call, only because we want to be able to communicate effectively. But the way we would like you to give us questions is use the chat function and ask those questions. And either our presenters or myself will see those, and we'll make sure that we read them and answer them to the best of our ability. Just a few NAC announcements, and one is right around the corner. CinemaCon registration is still open, and NAC will be there. We've got a slate of events planned, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. And then also our big event, October 27th and 28th at the Hyatt Regency Dallas, the Concession and Hospitality Expo. We've got some general education sessions planned, a one-day trade show this year. We're going to have an awards luncheon and honor those folks that we haven't been able to sit down and honor in a while. We're going to bring back the popular venue breakout sessions, mix in a few evening social events, and then also, very important, we are going to have a live 4-day CCM class in the days leading up at the very same hotel. So you can sign up for all of that on naconline.org. And we'd love to have a great CCM class leading in to Expo. Now, finally, just wanted to talk about NAC and our involvement at CinemaCon. We're not going to have committee meetings this year, but we're just going to have a quick leadership group. We're not going to have a board of directors meeting. We're going to save that for Expo. We will have a booth in the trade show at 220J, so please stop in and say hi. We'd just be great to see everyone again. We also have a complimentary meeting room for NAC members, the Abruzzi room. It's just adjacent to the trade show floor, very handy for your meetings if you want to get somebody off to the side or schedule a meeting in advance. We have a schedule for that on naconline.org. Look at the schedule, look for the openings, and then just write myself or write Barbara Aslan to get on that schedule. And then finally, Thursday morning, bright and early, we have our seminar, To Infinity and Then Where? Facing the Future Requires 5 F's. Larry Eder's going to lead a blue ribbon panel and talk about the future of the industry. If you could indulge me, I would like to just very quickly launch this poll. If you could participate. And just very quickly, who's going to CinemaCon? I am, not this year, or undecided. I'll just give you just a few seconds to fill that out. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that input. And we will move on. I did want to talk a little bit more about Expo. Registration is now open. The last time we talked, I don't think our registration was open. It's open now. You can go online, naconline.org, and register for Expo. You can register for the CCM class there. We are currently actively selling trade show booths and sponsorship packages, and would love to talk to you about that. You can contact me directly. There is also payment portals if you just like to do it directly through the website. But there's my number, there's my email address. Please contact me. I'm looking forward, and we're all looking forward to getting back together in late October in Dallas for the Concession and Hospitality Expo. All right, that's going to get us into today's program. The title today, Flexible Staffing, the Key to Ramping up your workforce. I met Michael Tully, who's with us today, and Mike Lenz is with us today too from Instawork. I met Michael Tully after one of these calls, and I believe it was Ken Whiting who shared the line during his session, labor is the new pandemic. And Michael got a hold of me almost immediately, and we started talking, and Instawork became an NAC member. So welcome, guys, to NAC. And we started talking about how they can provide value to our membership. And almost the very first thing we came up with is, so many people are asking about the staffing issue and the difficulties that we're facing today. And we wanted to get these guys on and pick their brain and hear from them. So please, during the course here, please use the chat function to ask questions, because I know they'd like to get a lot of them. They're experts. So I'm going to throw it to Mike Lenz and Mike Tully from Instawork. And the screen is yours, guys.
Great. All right. Thanks, Chris. While Mike gets our slides and presentation for today set up, just want to thank everyone for having us on the NAC check-in chat to talk about a topic that's very near and dear to our hearts, and that's the topic of staffing. I think, like most of the folks on this call, we're definitely seeing a return to normal in the building up of calendars in the events and entertainment space. And whether that means full ballparks like the one I went to last weekend in Philadelphia, or trade shows and conventions, or theaters and the performing arts venues, we're definitely seeing a return to normal and calendars quickly ramping back up. However, I think even though there's a lot of optimism brewing among operators of event spaces, we're most definitely seeing the effects of the national labor shortage that's making it more challenging to staff many of those events at a level that delivers the kind of great guest experience that you come to expect. So today we're going to be diving into this topic in more detail, and I'm joined here by my Instawork colleague, Mike Tully. This guy's been working in the event and venue industry for longer than almost anyone I know. Mike has over 30 years of experience in the staffing and food service industry. He spent about a 20-year stretch with Centerplate and now works with many of our large venue operators and concessionaires here at Instawork. I'm going to now turn things over to Mr. Tully to give a quick introduction of who Instawork is. And then we're going to jump into the meat of the discussion, where we're going to touch on some trends that we're seeing in the event staffing industry. After that, we'll wrap it up with a quick preview of what the Instawork flexible staffing platform looks like and some of our differentiators. Just as a brief bit of housekeeping, I think as Chris mentioned, you're more than welcome to submit any questions you have via the chat function, and we'll be tackling whatever comes in at the end of the call. So that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mike to get the meat of the presentation started.
Great. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone on the phone. Chris, thank you as well for inviting us in. Yes, we are a member, and we're very excited to be part of this prestigious organization. I know a lot of the folks that are on this call are part of this association and have worked with them in the past. So it's exciting to be back into the NAC. And looking forward to sharing some of our thoughts about what we're finding in the hourly or staffing shortages that our partners are facing, and to tell you a little bit about our company. This is not a commercial. We're just trying to, for the folks who don't know who Instawork is, I'm going to run through a couple slides here, like I said, and then we're going to have a discussion on some of the things that we are finding our partners and some of the other facilities, the struggles with trying to get some of these hourly folks back to work. So with that, there we go. So this is the agenda. Just like I said, I'm going to do a couple slides on Instawork, and then we're going to go into discussion, and we're going to open it up with Q&A. So please get your questions through the chat line with Chris, and we'll be happy to discuss those as well. So Instawork, just so you know, is a high-tech, high-touch mobile staffing app. And what we do, as you can see on the left-hand side of this slide, the traditional staffing agencies were storefront stores in local markets, and they had people come in and apply and provide their information. And that's how the staffing industry kind of started and, survived for many, many years. If you look to the right, you can see that the technology has really affected this industry. And how do we go and get these hourly workers matched up with the large partners and or facilities looking for these workers? How do we match them? And really, as you can see, Uber and some of these other DoorDash and the other ones, Upwork, are all using technology to get these folks matched with the large partners who are looking for hourly workers. Right now, we have 1 million people on our app, and I'm going to reference pros or professionals. That's what we call our workers. So just if I use that throughout the next couple slides or during our conversation, just so you know, that's what we're talking about, are the people that actually work with Instawork. Oh, there we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, we work with a lot of these large enterprise food service companies, and what I mean, where they have multiple locations, all different types of facilities that are all looking for hourly workers. And we have contracts with all of these, and we've been working with them for a couple of years now, pre-pandemic, and then obviously we had a little hiatus, and now we're back at it as we're helping them to try to reopen all of their facilities. Also, we're in the university space as well. This could be either self-op. Some of these universities run all of their facilities themselves, and others have partners like the previous slide. These are the markets we serve. We're 25 right now, and we're growing about 2 to 3 markets every other month, depending on the demand. First of all, the demand is on the partner side and then the worker side. We don't go into a market until we have a certain amount of folks that have signed up and downloaded the app. And then we start vetting these folks, doing our background checks, checking their references, and providing all the information you all need before you could actually post for a position for an hourly person. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Mike, and he's going to kind of lead the discussion. And I'm going to share with some of the thoughts that we are getting and learning and hearing and reading about what's happening in the temporary staffing agencies.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. You and I last week had a chance to go down to Atlanta to the IAVM Venue Connect conference. Had a lot of conversations with venue operators in some of these large event spaces. Based on some of those discussions and kind of from where you're sitting, what's your read on the state of the union, if you will, in the world of events and venues? What are you hearing about sort of the return of their event schedules and some of the challenges they're facing as they ramp back up to be able to service them?
Sure. So, and Mike said it, we just got back from the IAVM, which was in Atlanta, and it was virtually last year. This was the first time they got together. So, we got an opportunity to visit with our partners and also, visit and attend some of these sessions. And there was 3 actual seminars on temp staffing and hourly workforce and the struggles our industry, the hospitality industry, is having to get these folks back. I'm also going to quote here, this was a survey which was done in the second quarter by the United States Job Report. And one of the findings was that over 38% of the former hospitality workers that worked in the hospitality industry pre-pandemic are not going to be returning to this industry. They've looked for other work or found other jobs. So a big chunk of these folks have left the hospitality space, which is causing problems with all of our partners and all the hospitality facilities on trying to get people to help them host these events moving forward. And I'm going to break it up into 2 buckets. One is concessions. So that would be more towards the stadium arena side, amphitheater. And the other one is catering. We also attended the Cater Source conference, which was down in Miami about 3 weeks ago. And that has been affected. The catering, the small caterers, the large caterers, and the event business has been affected significantly by the shortage of temp labor. So in the, I guess the findings is that a lot of the concessionaires have gone cashless. They're using this technology to help not only, improve the throughput by not collecting cash. It also makes it a little safer by not handling cash from a patron to a worker. And that has turned to be fairly successful because the per caps have increased and they increase their throughput. So by eliminating the handling of cash, they also, and this is to offset some of the shortages in the concession labor space. They eliminated the cost of having a money room, handling cash, armored car requirements, and the overall just cash handling department of it. So technology has helped that. They've also reduced their menus. And what I mean by that, since there's a shortage of cooks, concession cooks, line cooks, and prep cooks, they reduced their menu to take the pressure off the cooks in the back of the stands to help them, again, with throughput and also streamline that concession experience. They also, as operators, have looked to do prepackaged grab-and-go items, which are becoming very popular now. That's really quick, very convenient, and again, it's a safe way of getting a product into a consumer's hand without any concerns about any COVID issues. And then last, I'm not familiar if you know about the Amazon to go locations and the facilities they have rolled out. Some of these operators are doing that. It's an app where you walk into the location, you actually scan your phone as you go in, you grab your item and you walk out and you immediately get a receipt on your phone. And that looks to be being rolled out in a lot of the big stadiums, some of the arenas, and on some of these campuses moving forward. So that kind of handles the concessions. And, how are they solving for this labor shortage? Is they're trying to streamline their operations using technology and trying to prepackage some of their items they could offer to their customers to, again, at least handle all the COVID issues as far as safety, but again, throughput and technology is important. On the catering side, a lot of our partners, when they're having their banquets, or their, catered functions, whether it be a wedding or a social event or a black tie, a gala, or what have you, they have been working with some of their meeting planners and some of their customers in moving from a plated meal to a buffet type of offer. And what that does is when they're struggling to get servers and bussers, dishwashers, and just setup labor, this makes it easier for them, and it reduces some of that strain of not being able to fill those server and busser positions by doing a buffet. And it's turned out to be fairly successful, and more importantly is the customers are completely happy with the ability to provide that same guest satisfaction and experience at those type of events, but also doing them safely. The other thing we've learned from our caterers as well is the ability to use disposable smallwares as opposed to china glass silver. This takes, again, some heat off the struggle of trying to get dishwashers and some folks in the back of the house to accommodate these catered functions.
Okay. I guess from the perspective of venue operators and concessionaires, certainly they're having challenges with their workforce, whether it's bringing back some of their older staff or hiring new employees. What's sort of the trends that you're hearing in terms of workforce recruitment or trying to bring back and retain some of their existing staff?
Yeah. Another, I'm going to speak again kind of in segments as well, but some of the bigger stadiums and universities have relied on nonprofit groups. And I don't know if the audience knows what that is, but those are usually charitable organizations that raise money for their church or their fraternity, whatever their association is working for. And a lot of those folks have not, again, they lost connection with their workforce. So these big stadiums have used a lot of those nonprofits to staff their concession stands. So they are struggling again, not only a large percentage had hourly folks had left hospitality, the nonprofit groups themselves are struggling to try to get their organizations together and their workforce to get ready for the upcoming school year, football season, and these stadiums and arenas rely heavily on those folks. So they need to fill that void as well. And they're trying to work, with their local organizations to get them certified and get them back into these facilities to help them staff their concession stands. The job fairs that typically these partners would use, they would go a month out and host these job fairs in multiple locations, different times. offering from free meals to, giveaways and things like that have not been successful. And it is taking longer to fill these positions. So they definitely, are finding it difficult to find these hourly workers for all of the front of the house and back of the house positions. Pay rates, I guess we have to talk about that. Obviously, the minimum wage has been raised, and also there's been some stimulus in certain states and subsidies on the existing unemployment, which has affected some of the pay rates, where we have to raise them a little higher because these folks, some of them were making more money staying home than coming to work. So most of these subsidies end in September. The states that we have seen where they have ended, it's some of these folks have, were forced to come back or wanted to come back, and it's starting to help. It's slowly, but it's starting to help us fill these positions as we move forward. Also, the other thing too is that I think that technology, if there's anything we've learned, that a lot of the hourly workforce, they like that flexibility. They like to set their own schedules. And how are we going to reach these folks? And we, through our technology and some of our partners, have been creative in going and utilizing the social media channels like the Craigslist and Instagram and Facebook, and trying to reach out and make sure they are aware that these positions are open and they have the ability to sign up through either the temp agencies and or with the partner directly to try to help them fill these positions. And the other thing too, we've heard and we've talked to our partners about is retention is critical. You have to keep the folks that you had. These were very loyal people before the pandemic. And some of them, it's amazing. Some dishwashers have been there over 10 years. Concession workers, some of them have even generations, their parents have brought them in there, and they come in with and work with their parents and their charitable groups and things like that. So we need to be cognizant of, the loyalty that these folks have had, and to reach out and to keep them happy and keep them coming back.
Yeah, I guess branching off of that a little bit, in some of the discussions we had last week, what are some of the strategies that are being effective in terms of recruiting that new staff? In terms of, we've obviously heard stories of sign-on bonuses and things like that in the news. Based on the conversations you're having, what's working? Yeah,
we'll definitely sign-on bonuses and incentives. I've heard anything from gift cards to free meals to, so some of the facilities where they have, teams, whether it be NBA, NHL, NFL, some of the colleges, they offer discount on some of their merchandise to help, promote their team or their school. And also, they're also offering, the people that commit to committing to, participate in the entire season. So if you're at a university where you have 6 home games, if you work for each game, show up for each game, that they'll give them a bonus at the end of the year, that they show that, that loyalty and commitment to, working with your partners and your groups to come back and raise money for the local community. That's a big thing too in some of these smaller cities which have these universities, is trying to give back to the local community as well. Referral incentives is something that we use, and what I mean by that is, if you have a friend that works there, he tells somebody within his family or with his inner circle, and we would offer them a referral to bring that person on, sign them up, and work a handful of events, and then we give them a referral bonus. And that's been fairly successful as well from our partners, giving referrals. They get them a sign-on or some sort of incentive to bring this person into the operation. Transportation reimbursements. This came on with some of our partners that we work with at some of the airports. Some of them, since they're federal or city owned and operated, they're able to give discounts on their bus and train and some of their parking expenses to help them get to work. And it's turned out to be successful, because the challenge is, also on college campuses, is that there's a lack of parking for our workforce. So they're bused off site, and then they have to take, a car somewhere, park there, and then hop on a bus to get to the venue. So if there's some way of deferring some of that cost of getting them to show up, it's turned out to be successful. And here's the other thing too is, and we talked about this at Cater Source, we're starting to fish in other waters for our hourly work staff. And what I mean by that is, we are looking for just about anybody that, has studied remotely, maybe have an opportunity, their schedule may be a little, easier to pick up an hourly opportunity. The other thing is the senior folks have found, we found out as long as it's safe and they feel safe working in these environments, they're good workers and they're very loyal and they show up. So, they're a good work pool to fish in. The other one, well, there's a couple here. So the local police department has always supported some of the security operations as an off duty for events, right? And we've been able to have some of those folks jump over on our side and help us on the food service side as well. And they like working in these venues, they're familiar with these venues, and they're really good workers. And like I said, they do show up and they're very good workers. And the last one is firefighters. And their schedule, they work one day and then they have 2 days off or what have you. So their schedule really fits kind of our work style or our work scheduling. And we actually have one of our baseball stadiums where we have pretty much one of the club areas where they're all firemen, and they're really good workers and they're really good fans, and they're fun to work with. So that's a different pool, right, that we wouldn't probably go into, after or before COVID. And then the other thing is the flexible schedules. Maybe we split shifts between some of these folks. Instead of our partner looking for a 40-hour commitment, maybe we break those into 20-hour commitments, so half and half. And it's all about the flexibility and the work week with some of these folks.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And kind of building on that, you mentioned expanding recruiting circles to maybe some less traditional places. And I think that's kind of where we see Instawork as a solution fitting in, is we're accessing folks who are part of the gig economy. And often it is a very different labor pool. So I guess from your perspective, why do you think that we're seeing workers sort of turn to that gig working model as they re-enter the workforce, particularly in hospitality?
Yeah, so that's, the same model. I think Uber, the difference with us for the hospitality space is you don't need it. Technically, you don't need a car. If you work for Uber, you're going to need a car and a cell phone. If you work for Instawork or a flexible staffing company, you really just need a phone. And the phone is the key. That's how we reach out to you, communicate with you, and provide you all the opportunities is through your phone. So anybody with a phone, and we've had that question before, is, well, what if they don't have a cell phone? Well, then they probably wouldn't work for us in that space. So and the other thing too that it's become very, very popular is these workers or pros, they want more control of their schedule. They want to work when they want to work. They want to get paid when they want to get paid. And it's important to them that they don't wait for 2 weeks to get paid. In the flexible or the staffing, area, we pay our folks, within a week. Some of them we pay, after the event, depending on, some of the criteria they have to meet, and also the ratings that they get. So they like that instant gratification. And this is based on the surveys that we've been getting back of the folks that work in our space. And that's really what they're looking for. And the other thing too is sometimes these people want to just try it before they buy it. Maybe I don't want to work at a venue. Maybe I don't want to work at an amphitheater, a music, a performing arts, or, I don't know if that's something I'd like to do, but I'd like to try it a couple times to see if I'd like it. And we do have a temp to hire program within Instawork. If they work a certain amount of hours, they could become on full-time with you. And I think that's a great way of getting them ready to see what kind of work and what it takes to work in one of these venues moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's some interesting perspective from the worker side of the equation. I think when you're looking at it from the perspective of operators, why do you think that many of them are turning to this sort of flexible staffing model to cover their labor shortage gaps as opposed to other methods?
Well, I think the first is that we can fill these positions. You know, they've been struggling to get hourly folks, and they need people for the weekend, or it could be a, you know, if it's a 5-game homestand, you know, that Sunday afternoon travel game, you know, there's a lot of call outs, and they know that, and they can rely on us to fill those. You know, those positions, you know, if it's a point of sale on a portable, a beer portable, it's significant revenue that cannot be shut down during a baseball game. So the cost of, you know, of having a temp, you know, pro on that particular portable may cost a couple dollars more, but in the return, they're still going to obviously provide a great guest satisfaction, but also they'll be able to, you know, not lose that revenue. Like I said, the payment methods I said earlier, you know, we do instant pay, and some of our employees, they have, you know, over 90% ratings from you, the partner. We have 24-hour support. So, you know, you got to remember some of these events end late at night, you know, they're over weekends. So we're not 9 to 5, and we do provide that. We also have an assigned account manager that works with your HR team and your on-site folks. You know, some of these companies, you know, when, you know, their buildings were shut down, you know, some of these folks got either furloughed or laid off. Some have not come back either. So we're kind of an extension of your on-site HR support to your operators. And then the other thing too is we gather a lot of information, pricing data based on the markets we serve. We are not only in, you know, the hospitality space, we're also in the light industrial space. So we have lots of information on the right pay rates to fill these positions. You know, what is the right number, you know, the hourly rate to get somebody to come to work. So, you know, sometimes if the pay rate is too low, those positions don't get filled. If you raise it, you know, another dollar, or, you know, whatever that number is, you know, we have the data that we could share with our partners that this is why we have probably one of the best fill rates in the industry. So that information is valuable to them. And I think more importantly is we just trying to help them fill that need of getting people back to work.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, when it all comes down to it, there's nothing more important than actually getting someone to fill the shift. So I think compared to a more traditional staffing agency approach, you know, what do you think are some of the keys to why we're able to fill those shifts at a better rate, and make sure that they're showing up at the right place and the right time? So, and I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots of our dashboard, and it's really high tech and the same kind of technology you may have seen in Uber, in that how you track your Uber driver to you know, to where they pick you up. We do that same thing with our worker. Once they accept the gig, we actually send them a notice 90 minutes before with all the details of where to go, turn by turn directions in there, exactly, you know, where to check in. So there's maps in there. And if they're not heading in that right direction, if they're not actually active or responding to our texts, we call them. And if we don't get a response, we delete them from the gig and then replace them with somebody else. So very active, very hands-on, and very tech-driven, but very high touch as well. I think the other thing too is the constant communication we have with our partners as well. So we really work with them 2 days out, and let's say they have 10 bussers that they need for this particular catering function, and there only 5 have signed up for it. We would talk to them and saying, you know, maybe you want to raise that pay rate, you know, maybe we need to adjust, you know, this particular position, you know, add more general labor to that, or just making sure they got enough hands-on to make it a successful event. So that's key too, because, you know, in the past, you would get a spreadsheet and hopefully these folks would show up and they'd sign in on an Excel spreadsheet and they'd sign out. We have transparency, and we actually are very active with our professionals in making sure they're committed to show up for your events. All right. I think that's kind of the end of the discussion points that we had prepared. I think we'd be a little bit remiss if we didn't show you some of this high-tech platform that Mike's been discussing. So we're just gonna quickly walk through a little bit about what the Instawork staffing platform looks like. And then I think we'll turn it over to Chris if you have any questions. Doesn't look like we've seen too much come in, so please, feel free to submit whatever you have, and Chris will field them.
Sure. Chris, do you want me to go, or do you have any questions?
I've got a few questions here, and I think you hit on this, but what markets do you serve currently?
So right now,
I think you had a slide on that, but
yeah. So here's where we are right now. Obviously, major markets. That's where we have, the most people that have signed up and been vetted in our platform. And the 6 below are the ones that we are going to be launching, hopefully this year, as the demand goes up. And, exciting times. I mean, we started, obviously in San Francisco 6 years ago, and now we're in 25 major markets.
Just this question too. Are you finding new applications obviously we have a lot of movie circuits and theater people in NAC. Are you seeing this type of application or gig work, as Mike referred to it, maybe starting to creep into the movie theater space?
Yeah, any venue that needs front of the house and back of the house. We do car dealerships. You'd be surprised, how many people are looking for just, day support, whether it be, temporary through the weekends or the holidays, or they're hourly, maybe taking vacations or whatever call outs. But yeah, we touch them all. And actually the theater business, I think, and again, they were shuttered, and obviously are coming back as well. We have, actually from the food service side to also the, just the general labor and the other, requirements they would need for event staff or weekend support, big busy weekends, or, movie launches and things like that. There's a lot of exciting things, and I'm looking forward to helping support that industry as well.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you go ahead with your demo, and perhaps we'll get a few more questions in the meantime.
Okay, great. So this is our dashboard. This is what you would see, and this is how you would be able to just book, bussers, servers, whatever the position is. So right there's the screenshot. It gives you the location. You'll see in the bottom, it'll be the particular position. So right here's prep cooks, and then you go through on the right-hand side with the shift, it'd be the day, the timeline. You could do multiple shifts, multiple positions. This is all just click of a button on our dashboard. So it's like basically making a hotel reservation to book a position. So this is the transparency I talked a little bit about earlier. This is basically what our dashboard is, like a landing page that we would have, our LinkedIn page, but this is just for hourly workers. We are probably the only site that has a landing page or dashboard where you can actually see where these hourly workers have worked before. And like I said earlier, they have to have 1 year of experience. Listed here, as you'll see right here, gigs worked on Instawork. It shows you how many gigs they have worked, in each one of these positions, some of the locations they worked at, and then some of the badges they were awarded for their service in the different positions that they worked for us. So very transparent. So anybody on the call today could download the Instawork app and have access to some of our pros, to see their profiles and things like that. And then this is the tracking mechanism, and I talked about the technology. On the left-hand side, you'll see this is what the pro would see on his phone. It gives them, the information of the gig. It also gives them turn-by-turn directions. And it also, below underneath there, it gives them exactly how many hours they're going to work and the details of the shift, what to wear, and all the details to be prepared when you get on site. The second one is, this is our GPS tracking that we use, and our ops team basically tracks these folks to make sure they're heading in the right direction. You know, maybe they got lost in the parking lot at one of the big venues or on campus somewhere. So we can help them, guide them to where they need to be. Once they arrive on site, the third screenshot is we have a clock-in code. So an on-site contact, your whoever ops team would give them the code and they check in, and that's when they start getting paid. It's basically paperless, but it's the way we track, you know, all the hours and how we reconcile. And then after the event, they get the check out code, and then they basically from the on-site supervisor. So that'll end the shift, and then they'll get a confirmation of how many hours they worked and how much they earned. So very transparent and very you know, paperless, and really we have all of this information. We have all sorts of reporting and invoicing and reconciliation all done through our app. So it's really tech savvy as it goes to as far as the workers' transparency of what they're getting. And then, like I said, this is like if you did sign up, this is a typical profile. Each one of them has to have a picture in their uniform, so you could see that. And then if you click down to view full profile, it'll go through all of the places that they work for us, all their experiences and references, and any badges they earned, certifications. So it could be food handlers, you know, if it's alcohol, the tips and team training, that kind of stuff. So very transparent, and it's very, you know, right now we are getting about 40,000 people a month that are downloading their app and filling out their profiles for us. So it's kind of exciting because people are looking for this type of opportunity, is trying to get back to work, and where the opportunities are. And that's it.
Okay. I got a question that just came in here, and it goes like this. Basic skills are obviously transferable and easy enough to verify, but how do you ensure a good cultural fit with an employer?
That's a great question. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nature of Instawork is that workers are tending to work for multiple employers. In that shift-based gig model, I think the way we build in that sort of accountability factor is the rating system. So after every shift, you have the ability to provide a rating. If someone did not meet your standards, you can rate them lower, and then they are blocked from seeing your shifts moving forward. At the same time, you know, they are able to provide feedback on, you know, their experience working a shift for you, whether, you know, good or bad. I think our partners tend to view that as valuable feedback in terms of how they're managing employees, both internal and if they're using a temp agency or an Instawork. I think, you know, there's no true way to line them up with a good cultural fit, but I think the two-way feedback at least helps make sure that people who are coming to work for you want to work for you, and people who are not a good fit, you are able to remove from your roster and remove from visibility to see your shifts posted.
Okay, just as a follow-up to that, are the managers good at doing the follow-up and doing the ratings and awarding the badges?
So we highly recommend that all of the on-site managers rate their professionals. And like Mike just mentioned, it's a 5-star rating. It's the same thing that Uber does when you're a driver. Before you actually can close out, you know, that ride, they want you to rate that driver, right? So it's critical for us because that information, like Mike said, anybody that gets a 4 and 5 will automatically be added to your roster. So that means anytime you post an opportunity, they will get that first. Anybody that gets a 3 lives in that middle range. They'll see them, but they won't be added to your roster. 1 and 2 will not be, you know, will have access to any of your postings. So, you know, I think it's really important that, you know, we initiate it. We also have shift leads. Anytime you get over 10 professionals on a particular project, we provide a shift lead. And a shift lead helps do that too, to take a little bit of that, work at the end of the event. And they help them obviously check in, check out, any other thing. They're familiar with the venue, they're on your roster, they know where to go, that kind of stuff. But they also help us, and we pay them a couple, dollars more an hour as part of our costs to help us provide that quality pro for each one of our partners.
Okay. How do the associates, how do they find your app when you enter a market? How do you do the outreach so that they can find your app and start filling out their application?
So, Mike, do you want? I mean, it's real simple. It's just on the Android or Apple Store. It was actually at one point one of the, I guess, the largest download on either Apple or Android. So it's simple. They just go to their store and then download the app and fill out their profile.
Yeah, and in terms of the way we're building that worker pool, certainly we are, advertising on social media and some of those more traditional marketing channels and recruitment channels. But by far the biggest driver of new signups is referrals, and we track that to understand who's coming in, and that makes up the lion's share.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned instant pay. Are they paid through the app? Or through an account that they create with Instawork, or is it through some other means?
Yeah. So yes, they're paid through our app. When they fill out their profile, they provide their banking information, and it's a direct deposit into their account. So yeah, just so everybody understands, is we basically pay them and we bill our clients. So we do all of the paperwork, and then provide all of the reconciliation. At the end of the event, we settle and we provide that to the partner. They review it, sign off on it, and we typically pay weekly. But our Instawork Gold pros, they get paid after the event. So and we're finding out that is very popular, and those workers are very loyal and very consistent. They like that instant gratification. So but we handle all that and then bill our client at the end of the month or whatever the payment terms are.
Okay. Does that, here's a question that come in. Does that mean you also handle all taxable?
Yeah, so I'm guessing that's for W-2. We have two pools of pros. We have 1099s, and then we have W-2s. And if it's a W-2, we actually collect the payroll taxes.
Okay. Is the ability to have gratuities, and how are they handled?
Great question. Yes, bartenders and some cashiers are tipped, and we basically have a as part of the as you book that, you would say that these are going to be tipped employees. Then we decide, provide which way are they tipped evenly. How do you distribute them, and we put that right in there. And each one of them will get reconciled at the end of the event when they settle the event.
And then I think finally, because we probably should get moving here, unless there are more questions. If there are, we'd certainly entertain them. But finally, when you are booking for someone and trying to find employees and aren't having great success, can you instantly slide the pay scale, or is that something that needs to be predetermined?
That's another great question. Yes, we do have the ability. We call that insurance. And if there's a big weekend, let's say there's a lot of activity, a lot of banquet business, or could be both teams in town, a big college game, another whatever, a lot of activity. We have it's a drop down button that actually we could raise it a percentage, maybe 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever that is, to make sure we get those positions filled. And then we filter that out into our workforce, and they are able to post to that. But yes, a lot of our, especially the partners that know the activity. Actually, since Chris, you're from Minneapolis, there's a big weekend coming up in Minneapolis with the Vikings. There's a soccer game. There's a lot of activity. So a lot of our partners are using that insurance to make sure they get those positions filled.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. And if there's more questions before we get going, I'll certainly fire it back to you. But I want to thank you for coming on. And I think one thing I want the audience to realize is, the whole point is, what are creative ways to staff in a very difficult time? And I think Instawork is a really good example of that. And I'm sure there are others, but just so happens Instawork is a member of NAC. And also I want to thank you for kind of those great overall thoughts about what are some of the things you can do to entice people back to work as they're coming off of those subsidies, and maybe eventually some of those unemployment benefits start to wane. So again, gentlemen, thank you very much. If you want to reach these guys, you can contact me, or I don't know if you guys want to throw out your contact information.
Sure. Here's my, I don't know if you see at the bottom of the screen, my email is mtully@instawork.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Happy to, share any other information we find or answer any additional questions. And I appreciate your time today. And I think, we're all trying to solve for this, the staffing shortages and some of the challenges that we're having. But I think that, as collectively as we share our thoughts and some of our findings, I think we'll be successful moving forward safely.
Okay, well, Mike and Mike, really appreciate your time today, and thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and, you're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen back up here and just close out today's program. And I'm going to end up just doing some reminders of reminders. CinemaCon registration is still open. We're going to be going down there in just a little over a week's time. It has come up very fast. Look forward to seeing you all there. Come by the trade show booth and say hi.